Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of QC. If you've been with us the last few weeks, then you will know that my daughters have helped us with our intro. So we're going to do that again today. They're going to help me introduce the guests in just a minute, but here's what we're going to do today. So, and by the way, we just come up with these right before, so don't expect anything too elaborate. So we're going to play a little charades. And all the answers, they're just going to do two. And the answers have to do with our QC. So that'll be the answers. I'll get out of the way and let them show you QC charades. Here we go. And unhide it.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Okay, I'll let you guess if anybody knows what that was. Okay, girls, what was the answer?
Quick caroling.
Quick caroling, very good. All right, I'll let you do one more. Go ahead. All right, everybody guess what that was? All right, what was the answer, girls?
Quietly crying.
Okay.
And QC, which stands for Quarantine Conversations, which is why we're here today to interview our guest, Lee Sherrell.
Very good. Thank you so much, girls, and thanks everybody else for indulging us on that. We've kind of made this the family QC project. So I am really excited today about our guest Lee Sherrell, and I've been really humbled actually talking to him on the phone a few times this week. Lee Sherrell is one of the people over the last few weeks. He's one of the few people to get COVID, go to the hospital, get on a ventilator for a length of time, and survive. And so Lee has quite a story to share with us. And I've told you this, Lee, but thank you for being willing to share your story, as I know it's very new and it's recent and raw. And I'm just thankful that you're willing to share some of your story with us. So let's start with just a few basics here so people can get to know you. Lee, can you tell us where you were born, and then where you grew up, and where you work?
You bet. So I was born in Oklahoma City and grew up in Oklahoma City and Bethany and Santa Monica, California. And so I just retired from cut off for March 6th, and was just starting to enjoy a little bit of retirement, and got hit with a bad sinus infection, and then 5 days later it turned into coronavirus.
Wow. Now, yeah, take us through that. I know it's been quite a journey, but so to tell us that story of start with the moment you felt these symptoms, and then I assume you went to the doctor, the ER, and then what happened from there?
Sure. Sinus infections I've always had, so I just didn't think anything about it. Went to see the doctor and was put on prednisone and antimicrobial and some different medications, and was just starting to get over it. And then something else hit me, and from there, 4 days later, I was in the bed 24 hours a day. Didn't eat. And so on the fourth day of that, my wife came in. She goes, "That's it. You're going to the hospital." And like most men, normally I would have argued, but I was like, I'm ready to go.
Now, at that point, were you already starting to think, uh-oh, I wonder if this is COVID? Or did you think, nah, I'm pretty sure this is the flu, this is something else?
I got the flu shot, and so I kind of didn't think it was the flu. I thought the sinus infection had just actually, I don't know whether I was hoping that or thinking that, but in my brain, I was like, I'll get over this in a couple of days. I just need a couple of days of bed rest. And she's like, you've had 4 or 5 days of 24-hour day bed rest and no food. I weighed 234 pounds at that time. And when they got me in the emergency room and then moved me to my room, I weighed 189.
Wow.
So anyway, but she took me to the hospital. We waited about 20, 30 minutes, filled out all this paperwork, took me back to the emergency room, and they started drawing blood and these different things. And the doctor immediately came in and he goes, "We're going to test him for coronavirus. If he has it, your wife can't stay any longer. She will be escorted from the hospital." And that didn't sink in until I watched her walk out of the room and walk down the hall. And that that hits you pretty hard in the chest when you think, okay, it's very, very serious. I missed one important step of that story. On the way to the hospital, I have a very, very close friend named Philip Maple. And I called Philip and asked him if he'd pray for me. And Philip said, "What's wrong?" I go, "Well, I'm going to the hospital and it kind of doesn't look good." So Philip shared a very beautiful prayer. And about 2 seconds after we hung up, I texted him and said, "I think there's a good chance I'm not coming back.
Hmm.
So would you do my eulogy?" And so Philip agreed. And I texted him because I didn't want my wife to know what I was thinking. And I was steadily just getting worse.
Hmm.
But
Now, when your wife had to leave, when you were in that hospital bed, and it was just, you were just starting to process, oh, I think this is pretty serious. What was going through your mind when she walked out that door?
I was thinking, this is the last time I may ever see her.
Hmm.
And I was starting to think about all the things that I didn't finish. We didn't share a prayer together before she left. She was kind of in panic mode, and I was somewhat not really out of it, but I was having trouble putting things together. And my mind, when I watched her walk out the door and down the hallway, I was thinking about all the things that I did not finish. So when my funeral came, she wouldn't have to do anything. And I was thinking about bank accounts and all this stuff. And my mind immediately went away from me to what I didn't get done to protect her.
Hmm.
And so from there, they took me to a CAT scan, and they said that my lungs were completely full, that I was actually having trouble breathing. And I didn't even think about it, but honestly, I was having trouble breathing.
Huh. Now,
And
just so we can get a sense of time frame here, how long was that when they said, "Hey, your lungs are full of fluid"? How many days was that from when you first felt symptoms?
from the start of the sinus infection to then was a week and a half.
Wow. So 10
And
days. Hmm.
10 days. And during that time, I just started getting better. I got trapped in the rain twice and just got soaked. And the second time, I think, was what really moved it on forward. And I did go back and see my regular doctor, and he was going to do another round of prednisone. And my wife's like, she's like, the first round, you're going to hospital. So we're not even starting that. And so that's when she took me to the hospital. They did move me to room 371 because my white blood cells were still up. And they said, your white blood cells have got to be up to help counter this. By 7 a.m. the next morning, I woke up. I had a room full of people. The floor nurse manager, the ICU doctor, and 3 nurses. And I'm like, okay, this is not looking good. And my salesman hat came on. They go, we're moving you to ICU because you cannot breathe on your own. And I was like, I just need another night of really good sleep, and I think I'll turn this corner. And one of the nurses kind of got chuckled. She goes, I've never seen anybody sell so hard to stay away from the ICU as you did. But it's probably one of the first sales I've ever actually lost.
Hmm.
And it's a good thing I did, they knew a whole lot more about it than I did. Being stubborn and a man, I just was trying everything I could do to stay out of there. Um, 15 minutes later, I was in the ICU.
Now, based on some of my conversations with some medical professionals, going to ICU is not good for COVID patients.
Correct.
When you went to ICU, did you know that was not a good thing and very, very severe just to go to the ICU?
Yeah, because I knew the next step was the ventilator. And my family has a history of being very difficult to come off the ventilator. But my mother and father, they were only on a ventilator for 3 or 4 days. And it took them 2 to 3 days to wake up from being on the ventilator. And they had a rough time getting them off. And so I was already scared of being on the ventilator.
Hmm.
So I went down, and my last meal before I got pushed on the ventilator was about a half an inch of cream of wheat in the bottom of a cup that looked more like glue than it did cream of wheat.
Hmm.
And I was like, maybe my last meal, I'm going to eat it no matter what and not complain. And I tell you, you don't realize how fine that line is between life and death until you're there.
Wow.
And I already had it in my brain that I wasn't coming home. I was like, this is pretty much it. And your mind just starts going through all these things that you didn't do. And to be real honest, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair and having this great conversation with you, Phil, if it wasn't for God.
Hmm.
I overheard one of them say that I had about a 2% chance. And that hits you pretty hard when you think, I'm 63, and these are the things that I didn't do. I was in such a big hurry to get out, make money, and I was always worried about a car and clothing, and instead of worrying about the right thing. This has seriously taught me a big lesson that if you just do things that God tells you to do and follow the real guidelines that He has set forth for you to have an awesome life, all those things that you're supposed to have will come. I was always, not always, but a big part of my life, you get to rolling and things are just easy coming. You start putting these things together, and your brain kind of locks in on those things instead of things that are really important. So instead of sitting back, I shouldn't say sit back, but letting God lead those things. Just like I was in St. Louis Hospital a year and a half ago and crashed in the middle of a Hudson News. My blood sugar crashed. And you would have thought that would have been a wake-up call. I got home on Thursday, and then I got up at 2:30 Monday morning and forced myself to get on a plane and go to the West Coast, which was stupid because I was still sick. But anyway, I don't want to get off this journey.
Well,
Huh?
Viewers, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, as Lee and I keep talking, if you have a question specifically for Lee or a comment, you're welcome to put that on the feed on either Facebook or YouTube, and we will see that. So we invite those questions and comments. That helps facilitate the conversation.
Definitely.
Lee, I want to go back to as you're narrating this journey, go back to when they put the ventilator on. So you didn't want that to happen. Can you tell us, first of all, the average person might not know what a ventilator even looks like or how it functions. So can you tell us that, and then just talk about those days on the ventilator and what that experience was like?
Sure, most definitely. So first of all, I said no. And honestly, I don't remember a lot of those last minutes before I was on the ventilator, but evidently I told them no I decided that I was going to write it out and I wasn't going to do the ventilator. Well, they immediately called my wife. And let me tell you, the nurses in the ICU, the doctor, these guys these people were very, very special, extremely caring. They called my wife when I wasn't able to and FaceTimed us. They set a pillow on my chest, put the phone on there so we could talk. They were very, very good people. They immediately called my wife and told her that I was refusing the ventilator. Well, I got an earful from my wife, rightfully so. And she goes, I don't want to be here without you. So that hit me pretty hard in the chest. But being hard nosed, we have a family member that is extremely intelligent, just an unbelievable person, very strong in the medical field. And so I said, well, not asking her or just taking her opinion. I said, well, what did Jimmy say? Wrong thing to say. Anyway, Jimmy was on the phone and I didn't know it. And he goes, well, it's like this. You're going on the ventilator. And if you don't, you're not going to be with us much longer. You cannot breathe. Every minute, your breath is going down. And I said, okay, I'll tell him yes. Well, I could barely hang the phone up. Told my wife, I love you. Thanks, Jimmy. And they had equipment in there. It was actually sitting at the door. So one tube went up my nose and down to just short of my lungs. And then the other tube went through my mouth and down. It wasn't invasive. It wasn't invasive as it used to be. And within seconds, I was unconscious and in an induced coma. And within seconds, within seconds, I had horrible dreams, just way out stuff, and some stuff was just was very bad dreams. And so I was on a ventilator for 16 days. They had trouble close to the end. My kidneys stopped. They brought in a kidney specialist, got my kidneys back to going. They thought I'd had a stroke, so they did a brain scan. Luckily, my brain decided to work at that time, and I passed the brain scan. They said, no stroke, fine. But they were giving me commands to move my arms, legs, hands. During that time, kind of piecemealed it back. That was when I had a dream that my legs and arms were saran wrapped. And I could see 2 or 3 people walking in this hallway. I thought I was screaming at them. Evidently, nothing was coming out. They never came in to cut the saran wrap loose. The next thing I remembered is my wife was saying, I love you on my phone, on my chest. She said the first couple of times I moved my lips, but nothing came out. And she said she watched the nurses take me and shake me, move me, do everything possible. And so multiple times throughout the day, they would FaceTime my wife and she would talk to me. Now, during the 16 days, they called her every day, set her on my chest and FaceTime so she could actually see me. I mean, we all talk about dream teams. The Olympics this year is the U.S. dream team. This football team, this coaching soccer team. But to be real honest, and I didn't realize this until shortly after I came out of that ventilator, but there's one dream team, and that's God's dream team. God actually handpicked everybody that was around me in that ICU. I had handpicked nurses that were with me 24 hours a day. When they called in the kidney specialist, come to find out, he was the top kidney specialist in the Mercy system. I had the #1 ventilator doctor, and they were all handpicked. Definitely not because I'm special or anything. It was purely because of God, because 1 second the other way, I would not be here today. And I know that with all my heart.
Hmm.
Um,
So when you're under for 16 days, and I assume you're in and out of consciousness, coming towards the end of that, when was the moment, or did you have a moment where you thought to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to make it"?
it would have been the second day my wife was saying, "I love you." She said the words actually came out of my mouth, and I opened one eye, and I could see her. And then by the end of the day, I was somewhat conscious, where I kind of knew what was going on, and I was like, okay, now I can make it from here, and God's brought me this far, and He's been with me the whole way. Um, and then I believe it was the next day, or it might have been 2 days later, they moved me to the second floor. I think it was 2 days later.
Mhm.
They let me get pretty much all my faculties back before they jostled me around and moved me. Now's when the real interesting part kind of comes in, because I was moved to the second floor, which is their skilled nursing part. Um, and I became very delusional. Um, my wife would call and I go, "This hospital doesn't have any beds. They keep putting me in this ambulance every day and driving me around." And she's like, "You're not in an ambulance." I go, "Well, I most certainly am." She's like, "Does it have a TV?" And I'm like, "Yes, but um, I was like, yes, but that's beside the point." And for some reason in my head, I knew I was in an ambulance being driven around. Um, I had two female nurses and a male nurse, and I was scared to death of the male nurse. I text Jimmy, I text my wife, which was all garbled. They're like, Jimmy call his mom and go, "I don't know what you've got to call him. He's very delusional. Tell him he's safe. Tell him nobody up here will hurt him." And I guarantee that. Um, but I was scared for my life. I kind of slept with one eye open, and so I was getting worn out because I was getting no sleep.
Mhm.
Uh, and I honestly thought this guy was going to kill me. And so 2 days later, they moved me to a different floor. Best night's sleep I ever had, but it was very, very scary. I
Wow.
was I tried to get out of bed. I pushed the button because I had to go to the restroom. Uh, uh, no, and unfortunately, the medicine they had me on, once your brain realized you had to go, you had about a 2 second window.
Wow.
So I looked and I'm like, I've walked for 60 years. I can walk 2 feet. That's how far it was from the bed to the restroom. I stood up and my knees gave way. I fell, hit the IV stand, went down on this steel framing and sliced my head open on this side and down here, and blood was going everywhere. And they immediately, of course, they came in then. They took me down for a CAT scan. No damage other than lots of blood. Um, then they put alarms on my bed. I wasn't allowed to move outside my bed. I mean, even if your knee touched the side of the bed, the alarms went off.
Wow.
Um, so,
Hey, Lee, let me ask you this. We uh, Sandy Moore goes to Memorial Road. She's a nurse, and she's been on trips with me, and she's a great nurse. But she has a question from the perspective of a nurse. She says, I'll just read her question word for word. "I'm a nurse, and I take care of people on vents, and always wonder if you remember us suctioning or turning you, or all the other horrible things that we have to do." So do you remember when those nurses come in and have to do those things?
no, my wife said they had me so heavily um, um, inundated with drugs to keep me asleep. All I remember is the bad dreams.
Hmm.
Anybody that knows me, Phil will crack up when I say this, but first thing I said to him as I go, first dream I had is I bought a 69 Chevy long bed pickup. Uh, he laughed and he goes, "You wouldn't even drive a Chevy pickup." I go, "No, that was the scariest part of the dream." And then I was helping people buy land in Texas, which is so far out of what I know. But I don't remember them doing anything to me. I don't even remember them asking me to move my legs or hands or arms. My wife said that because she watched every day through FaceTime, she said that they would turn me and move me and do different things. I honestly did not remember any of that. The only thing I remember is the bad dreams. And I was told that majority of patients that get put into an induced coma have bad or really outlandish dreams. I dreamed that I was on a ship and got put in a Ziploc bag and dumped in the ocean, and I couldn't breathe. Two things out of those dreams that I remember, both were fighting for air. I remember that. I can't piecemeal it to figure out if it was in the beginning or in the end. But that's the big thing I remember from that, was it seemed like I was always fighting to breathe.
Lee, we have a video clip that I know you've seen, but a lot of our viewers have not seen it. So if we can, we're going to play that video clip, and then we'd like to, after the video clip shows, we just want to know what this experience was like. So for the viewers out there, this was a really big deal. There are many people that go to the ICU don't make it, and Lee did. And so there was quite the celebration when he got to go home. So let's watch this video, and then we want to hear your reaction, Lee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's quite a video, Lee. And
Oh,
what was that like for you?
well, the nurse came into my room, and sorry, that gets to me sorry. This was such a scary journey. If it hadn't been for God, I know I wouldn't be here. He gave me peace and relaxation through it, even though I had some rough times. But the nurse came in, she goes, "We'd like to do a picture for you to take home." And in my head, I'm thinking like a 5x7 with the nurses from the ICU or took care of me on that floor. So I signed it, and they got me ready to transport me to rehab. And we turned out, there was all these people, and I didn't know what to do. I was totally shocked. What I should have been doing is, and you couldn't see my mouth, but I thanked them all the way down, and they were just amazing. I mean, Mercy Hospital really bent over backwards for my care, and I know everybody that was involved, God touched them to make sure I got the best of the best. Why he picked me, I'm so thankful that he did. But that journey of riding on that stretcher and going by all these people that were clapping and whistling, and I mean, I had tears in my eyes the whole journey. I couldn't thank them enough. I couldn't thank God enough for allowing me to be at that point and not going out the other back door. But even when I watch it today, it takes me right back to that spot of leaving my room. They were so caring. But I asked the guy behind me, push the stretcher, I go, what do? I honestly didn't know what to do. I was just shocked. and amazed and very thankful.
Well, I know that you were a symbol of hope to a lot of those medical professionals who day in, day out, they work so hard, and a lot of times they don't get the results that they want, and it's very sad for a lot of our medical people. And so I think the reason that you have a whole hospital escorting you out with a standing ovation is that there was just a lot of hope infused into their hearts through your story, and so I know they felt blessed as well. When most people have some big event happen in their life, and it's kind of a, hey, I need to rethink life. I need to rethink priorities or things like that, whether that's the birth of a child or a significant breakup or loss or death or divorce or something good can happen as well. This has got to be one of the top moments of your entire life. Does this experience now change the way you think about life at all? And if so, how does it change the way you think about life?
Well, it does in several ways. All of us kind of go through life, and we may not really know how many other lives we've touched or how many friends true friends that we've built. A lot of us don't think about the honest relationship that we truly have with God. Some of us have a tendency to only pray when everything's down or we're sick or whatever that may be. But it made me step back because, first of all, Philip was a huge relief to me because he checked on my wife twice a day, maybe 3 times. He would get information from her and send it out. The majority of my reps that I've had from Mississippi, Louisiana to Anchorage, Alaska to Mexico, all contacted her. A lot of them every day, wanting to know what the change was. If there's anything they could do for her, do for me. But I tell you, you think once you're out of their life, a lot of these guys throw your phone number away, and but all my reps contacted Philip or contacted her, and some of these guys had sent notes that you don't realize some of the training that you'd given them throughout the years really did mean something. Some of them really commented on, and there was a couple of guys that Philip and I talked about, and I was like, I thought he just kind of made a few notes and ignored the rest. And come to find out, he has a real heart. To this day, I get texts from him once or twice a day. Just a true gentleman. But I have to tell you, I've got a lot of friends out there that are unbelievable. The reps I had in Texas, Charlie Coleman, John Whitaker, Gary Greer, Chisholm Wharton, all those guys have just been unbelievable friends through all this. But it makes you back up and go, do I really need to make that much money to survive? Do I really need this certain car or this certain clothes? And my mindset is, I need to spend every day for the rest of my life finding ways to tell everyone that if it wasn't for God, I honestly would not be here. And I know where that dividing line is between life and death. The other thing, unfortunately, when I came out of the ventilator, my wife said I was mad at the world and very delusional. And I had about a 2-second window before my patience was gone. So unfortunately, she and I got in a handful of nonsense arguments, which I have begged 100 times for forgiveness. But I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to her. And she said it wasn't really anything it was just dumb stuff. Like she would say, well, you're in your room. No, I'm in an ambulance. I wouldn't take her word for it, which is a bad thing. And then one of my friends in Texas called and he goes, Linda loves you with all her heart. You are her soulmate. And I'll come up there and kick you in the behind if you don't stop it. And he goes, no, there's no well. But you don't realize what some of these medications do to you. And not the medications fault. If it hadn't been for those medications, I mean, God actually guided them to get a product approved that they haven't used since the 50s. And because of that, I responded to it really, really well.
Well, Lee, I think that's really helpful to hear you talk about the power of friendship and the importance of a family. For me, when I'm just going through life and things are normal and not really in crisis, I tend to elevate all the wrong things on the price. That's really valuable about your perspective is nobody is trying to put you on a pedestal or even say you're perfect, but you came about as close to death as you could possibly get. And I think that there's a clarity that comes from that moment. Crisis tends to bring out clarity. And so for you to come out of that and then say, you know what, making all the money in the world's not that important, but these friends I've made in this state and that state and this job and that job, that's what's important. My wife is important. My faith is important. That's so good for the rest of us to hear, because it's really easy to lose sight of that and get all worried about, I have to get this, or I have to, got to go to this state, or got to make this money at such and such a place. And man, the people closest to us matter. And that's just really good to hear you say that. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective.
Well, it's honestly true. I mean, so I went to this rehab place where they were taking me out of the hospital. First day there, I fell, landed on the wheel of the bed with this side of my head, back of my head, and this side hit this wooden end piece, knocked me out. Nobody found me. About an hour and a half from what I could figure, I crawled up into this bed and started pushing the help button. It was another 45 minutes before someone even showed up. Told my wife, and if my wife was just an angel, but on the third day, she OR'd me out of there. I mean, the place was just horrible. But as soon as she brought me home, I was walking within a couple of days without a walker, on my own, not fallen since. But the friendships we make and our wives that we're lucky enough to get to share life with, and I am very lucky, because I tell her, I tease her all the time that she's my princess, but unfortunately, I'm the junkyard dog. And the video you showed, I have one friend in California, and 2 seconds after Philip sent it to him, I get this text, and he's like, will you literally get sick and almost dying to be a celebrity? He goes, you're unbelievable. You'll do anything to get on TV. So, but that's just Keith. I mean, he'll tease me with anything he can get his hands on. But we've been friends since 2001. And he has always, if he hears of anything, he'll call every day to check and make sure if there's anything he can do. So you're exactly right. I mean, there's more to life than making money. There's more to life than cars, the house, whatever that may be. Your friends and your family and your wife are the most important thing. Unfortunately, I've wasted, well, I'm 63, but I've wasted a big portion of my life not realizing that. And, for God to forgive my sins, forgive my shortcomings, and forgive the fact that I need you today. Oh, yeah, I won this deal. And then I'm off to the races again, to forgive those shortcomings and go, your life's important. We are going to save it. And you are going to live, is unbelievable. God has got a truly forgiving heart, and people just need to give him a chance. mean, just like the time in St. Louis, my brain set was, I can power through this, not, God, I'm in trouble. I need you to help me get something to drink, a piece of chocolate, and just help me get home. It was, I can power through this. I'll go get that drink. I was trying to get orange juice or a Diet Coke and a payday, which Philip will laugh about. It's just made me realize there's 4 minutes in an hour to be thankful for what God's given me and what God's opened that I get to have and share with my wife.
Wow, that's great perspective. Yeah.
And I'm truly thankful to be here today.
Well, Lee, we're going to wind down here. There might be some people listening that want to reach out to ask a further question or to share just an encouraging thought with you. Is
Sure.
the best way for people to reach out to you just to find you on Facebook, or is there other ways that you want to give to people to find you?
They're welcome to send me an email at lsherrell58@gmail.com. They're welcome to call me on my cell phone, if that's okay with you, or text me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to share that number? Do you want to put it in something when we close?
We might be able. Go ahead. Josh Kincaid is working behind the scenes on all this call, everybody, and
Okay.
for him to throw up your email on the screen if anybody wants to write it down. Well, yeah, there you go. Let's just start with that. If you want to say anything to Lee or ask anything of Lee, his email's on the screen right now. Well, I just want to say, Lee, thank you again for sharing this part of your journey with us. I know it is really recent, and sometimes that's difficult to go back to those moments, especially because it's so severe, and you really did come very, very close to death. But that's why I think your perspective really matters, and so I appreciate you taking the time to share with us. And I hope that in the coming days, this being able to tell your story can be a encouragement and a blessing to you, and that God can use your story then to bless other people. So,
well, Phil, thank you, and thank you for this great opportunity to share my journey. And I just appreciate you giving me this chance. And I've really enjoyed getting to visit with you over this past week. And whatever I can do to help you in any way, shape, or form, I'm a phone call away.
You bet. All right. Thank you very much, Lee, and thanks everybody for watching, and join us next week for another episode of QC. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.